The scenery from the airplane going to Hawaii was really beautiful. And to make things even more surprising, my ex-girlfriend from middle school was sitting right next to me. She started talking about our past and kept going on and on about how I'm not worth anything anymore without me even asking. She also mentioned how happy she is now, being married to a wealthy man, and how much her husband relies on her. At that moment, a message played over the speaker, asking if there was someone who knew how to fly a plane. Something really serious must have happened. It's surprising that they're asking for a pilot instead of a doctor. People started to understand how serious the situation was as they whispered about the need for a pilot. Is there something wrong with this plane? Then the flight attendant noticed me and said, "Oh, it's you." That's when something happened to make my ex-girlfriend stop talking. My name is Alex. Since I was young, I've always been really interested in airplanes. Actually, I was fascinated by anything that could fly. Watching birds and insects soar through the sky was always amazing to me. I used to dream about having wings so I could fly if I tried really hard. I really thought I could grow wings, but unfortunately, even though I tried my best, they never appeared when I was 5 years old, and I felt quite sad about it. Then, I saw an airplane for the very first time. It was absolutely incredible to witness this inanimate piece of metal soaring through the sky. It took place during a family trip with my mom and dad. The sight of that huge bird flying high up made a big impact on me. It became a sign of freedom for me. From that moment, my interest moved from cars and trains to airplanes. I became a boy who absolutely adored airplanes. I learned by heart the names of planes and airlines, spending my time immersed in books about them. Recognizing my immense passion, my parents would take me to the airport every week, even though they didn't bring me on a flight. My parents and younger siblings didn't appreciate planes like I did, but they always listened and smiled when I talked about them enthusiastically. I always dreamed of being a pilot and flying in the sky. It was the first dream I ever had. Even now, I think it's a bit unusual for a kid to have such a realistic dream from the get-go. My dad would say to become a pilot, you have to study hard, and I was a bright student for my age. I felt that studying was a small price to pay if it meant flying a plane someday. My teacher said that to do well in school, you need to know what you want to achieve in the future. I believed this strongly. If studying was the way to become a pilot, I was ready to study hard. Additionally, my dad told me that having cavities could prevent me from becoming a pilot. So I brushed my teeth diligently. I work, and I got so good at it that I could have become a dental hygienist. Mind you, it's not true for all pilots that having cavities is a deal breaker. Only those flying certain fighter jets can have them, due to the effects of air pressure. If someone said that you need to be physically fit to be a pilot, then I doubled down on weight training and exercise. When I was growing up, I was more interested in planes than playing. By the time I got to middle school, I started thinking seriously about becoming a pilot. I realized that in order to fly a plane, I needed to go to a good high school and college, so I stayed focused on my studies and physical activities during my time in middle school. I was worried about my friendships and tried to be friends with everyone. I didn't want any unnecessary enemies, so I avoided people who caused stress. I wanted to connect with as many people as possible and learn from them. It might sound a bit embarrassing, but I was quite popular with the girls and enjoyed the attention. My guy friends would ask how I did it, but I couldn't give them a good answer since I wasn't trying to be popular. During all of this, a girl named Olivia confessed her feelings and wanted to date me. She was the most beautiful and popular girl in our grade. Being approached by such a beauty, I was over the moon and couldn't find a reason to refuse her. I said yes without thinking seriously. It was my first time dating a girl, and I had no idea that Olivia would be so much trouble. She became upset whenever I talked to someone, a male or female, whom she didn't know. I'd often buy her something just to improve her mood. She demanded things like deleting contacts of the girls from my phone and expected immediate replies to her texts. She was incredibly self-centered and seldom thought of others out of the blue. She'd say things like, "I want you to be my ideal boyfriend," and this cut into my study and exercise time. She kept telling you to reserve all your weekends for me. And by the way, you have to pay for our dates. It's awful to make your girlfriend pay." These requests were too overwhelming for a middle school student. As time went on, being with Olivia felt more and more suffocating. When I was in middle school, my dad tragically died in an accident during the summer. Losing my dad, who had more belief and expectations for my future than anyone else, was really tough for me in middle school. Often I would see my mom, once vibrant and full of life, look worn out and lifeless. Although I wanted to cheer her up, I was so overwhelmed with my own feelings that I couldn't offer much help. Our family was engulfed in profound grief after losing our beloved father, a man we all admired. All of us had to work harder to live our lives. My mom, who used to stay at home, now had to get a job. As a result, she couldn't take care of my younger brother anymore, so I took on the responsibility. This meant less time for studying and sports, but it was a sacrifice we had to make for the family. It wasn't easy, but it was necessary. Of course, the time I cut back wasn't limited to just that. I also reduced the time I spent with Olivia. "Why haven't you been in touch?" Olivia asked me when I explained my family situation. She retorted, "So what if your mom's working? That's fine, and you don't need to take care of your younger brother. She can do that when she gets back from work." I was shocked when I heard it. I was really upset that she could behave so uncaring towards my family. She was mourning the loss of her father, just because she felt ignored by me. I told her that I can't be with someone who can't show empathy during difficult moments and ended my relationship with Olivia. I didn't want her to continue affecting my emotional well-being. However, later at school, the story had twisted into Olivia dumping me on top of that. She spread all sorts of rumors and bad-mouthed me to everyone. I saw her true colors, but honestly, with everything going on, I just felt indifferent. To help my family out, even a little, I thought about skipping high school and getting a job. My mom was against it, but after some persuasion, she tearfully gave her permission. All I can really do is physical work and study, so I thought about finding a job that would utilize those skills. On graduation day, Olivia, somehow finding out I wasn't going to high school, teased me about it. "You're not going to high school," without making eye contact. I simply replied job and tried to distance myself from Olivia from behind. She told me that if I didn't go to high school, I wouldn't have much ambition and would always stay at the bottom. I thought I would never see her again, so I didn't pay attention to her and left the school. Now, after some time has gone by, I'm going through the process of getting ready for a flight within the country. I'm on a personal trip heading to Hawaii. I'm a bit embarrassed to admit that I've never been to Hawaii, so I'm really looking forward to it from deep within. My impression of Hawaii is that it has beautiful beaches and a lot of rich flavored dishes, but it's quite a far place, so I just never found the time to visit. Even thinking about sightseeing there, I'd be torn about where to go, and I probably would have just ended up staying in the hotel, which is why I never had the courage to go alone. However, one of my friends opened a restaurant. I decided to go there to celebrate. I decided to have a friend show me around Hawaii during this visit, so I planned to take my time and see the sights. I couldn't help but feel like a giddy kid with this much excitement, but as well I comfortably settled into my seat. There's something about the slight hustle and bustle inside the plane right before takeoff that I genuinely enjoy. I placed my carry-on under the seat and found myself gazing out the window, lost in the view outside even before taking off. The window had an amazing view that was unlike anywhere else. I was really excited because I got a great seat that wasn't too close to the wing. I had a clear view with no obstacles, which was really cool. There was some time before the plane took off, so I daydreamed about the incredible sights above the clouds. The plane I'm on was pretty much almost packed to capacity, yet nobody was sitting next to me. I wonder if no one booked a seat, or maybe they were running late. Either way, I had mixed feelings. Considering how crowded it is, I feel a bit guilty enjoying this extra space all to myself for now. I decided to just gaze out the window and ride out this awkward moment. Bang! There was a loud sound as someone hurriedly took the seat next to me. This last-minute passenger fumbled with her belongings, even after sitting down, bumping their elbow into me. Yet not a single sorry came out of her mouth. On top of that, she reeked of strong perfume and cosmetics. I haven't encountered someone this inconsiderate since middle school. She reminded me of some unpleasant people I have encountered before when I saw a faint reflection of the seat next to her on the window. I noticed that she had something dark over her eyes, possibly sunglasses. That's all I could see. But I found it a bit snobby to wear sunglasses indoors. I might be judging too quickly though. Eventually, the rude person sitting next to me couldn't resist taking a quick look at my face after fidgeting. I inadvertently responded by looking back. I regretted it instantly. Though she was heavily made up and looked quite flashy, I had seen her before. Someone I'd rather forget. Well, if it isn't little dropout boy, how have you been? I felt a chill as I wondered if my journey, which was already taking a bad turn, would continue this way, taking off under stormy skies. If I do say so myself, that was a pretty apt comparison. Seeing my silence, she said, "Forgot about me." "Surely you haven't forgotten how I did to you," and took off her sunglasses. It was indeed Olivia from middle school whom I dated. Her face remains strikingly beautiful, but it's clear from her first words that her attitude hasn't changed one bit. "Hasn't it been since graduation? Long time no see. Never thought I'd run into you here, of all places, flying in planes for a dropout like you. How bold. Oh. Or maybe you're off to join a tuna fishing boat." Looks like her attitude is unchanged. Good to see she's well. Olivia ever the chatterbox with her sarcastic remarks. She's so adept at belittling people that it seems she forgets to breathe, firing off insults at me one after another. Truly a piece of work. That woman, I simply replied, just a vacation, and focused on the view outside, wanting to minimize any further interaction with her. The plane seemed ready for takeoff and began to slowly move. I was looking forward to a pleasant flight, but now it feels like I'm plunging straight into hell because of one seatmate. I wish I could just peacefully sleep on the plane right now. Olivia seemed upset by how cold I was acting, making a disapproving sound. She then started saying hurtful things like how terrible of a boyfriend I was compared to her more attractive high school boyfriend. It felt like I was a waste to her. She kept bombarding me with comments, hoping to get a reaction out of me. After high school, Olivia apparently married into wealth through some circumstances. I wasn't paying much attention, so all I remember is she married someone wealthy. Apparently, Olivia, who hit the jackpot, is going on a luxurious trip to Hawaii. "I'm going to stay in a fancy hotel you could never afford in a lifetime and enjoy the resort," she said. By the way, her husband seems head over heels for Olivia, and he revolves his life around her. Well, I guess some people are like that. I hope he cherishes Olivia forever, since he's a strange individual. If she ever lost him, I doubt she'd ever marry again. Tuning out Olivia's self-centered chatter, it's me just going along with it, even in moments like this. The view from the plane was breathtaking. Soon after takeoff, the view below turned completely white as we rose above the clouds. No matter how bad the weather is, if you wait a bit and rise above the clouds, a bright blue sky always shines. The beautiful blue sky always sits above the clouds, peeking through gaps to see the ground below. But I wonder, when will these neighboring clouds clear up? People like you, the lowly ones, rarely get the chance to fly. She sarcastically tells me that this perspective should only belong to me. Additionally, Olivia mentions that she has flown multiple times and is bored of looking out the window. Why does she try so hard to make herself seem less important? It's good to feel confident, but I couldn't understand why she would intentionally diminish her value in front of others. I can't believe I once dated someone like her. If I ever have kids, I'll drill this into their heads. It's just too bad to have a blotch on one's life as early as middle school. Honestly, I find it hard to believe that just because you've flown many times, you get tired of the view outside. The scenery shows a different face depending on the day and time, so you'll never truly see the same view twice. Seems like such a waste to me. It was while she was passionately going on about how amazing she is. "Is there a doctor on board?" came the announcement. It's a line you often hear in TV shows, but this was the first time I've heard it in real life. I wonder if someone's fallen ill and needs medical attention. I was worried, but there wasn't anything I could do. I decided to wait quietly, but the airhead next to me had a different idea. "Wait, what's going on? It's like something straight out of a drama." What's got this woman so riled up? Such behavior, especially when someone on board might be seriously ill and in need of a doctor. I knew it. She definitely has a few screws missing with those thoughts. While I was looking around the plane, they made another announcement. They asked if there was anyone on the plane who could fly it. I was shocked by that request myself. When they announced that they needed a doctor, the passengers became a little uneasy. Olivia seemed the most worried, but when they asked for a pilot, chaos broke out in the cabin. Is this plane even okay with the pilot like this? And does the pilot need a doctor? Voices calling for the flight attendants could be heard throughout the cabin. It's understandable. First needing a doctor and then the pilot. Something must have happened to him. Olivia's face grew increasingly pale, and she began to panic. What the heck, is this plane going to crash or what? Why does she say something unnecessary? Mentioning a crash in a situation like this could cause a full-blown panic in the cabin. That's why I dislike people who can't read the room. Unsurprisingly, the flight attendant cried over to Olivia, who was loudly using the word crash. "Ma'am, nothing of the sort will happen. Please wait in your seat." Olivia was arguing with the flight attendant, but the attendant skillfully urged her to sit back down. After that, the flight attendant stared at me and asked if I was Alex. I immediately felt relieved and asked what was the matter. She seemed really concerned, so it must be something important. Maybe Olivia was right about something. I agreed with a nod and got up from my seat. "What are you doing? If you are just going to be in the way, better sit here and shaking your boots. The pathetic one here is you." "Olivia," I almost snapped back but managed to hold my tongue. The flight attendant asked, "Is she with you?" To which I firmly denied, "Just an old acquaintance. We just happened to sit next to each other. Nothing more. She's no relation to me," I explained. I wanted to head to the cockpit right away, but Olivia gripped my arm tightly and wouldn't let go. "Where do you think you're going in this situation?" Even though I asked her to let go, Olivia showed no intention of doing so. I was wondering what to do when the flight attendant intervened. "Ma'am, I apologize for the inconvenience, but Alex is one of our pilots. There's an urgent matter he needs to attend to." Seeing that she exerted a polite hand, forceful pressure to detach Olivia's hand. "You're the pilot?" Olivia said, eyes wide in surprise. I replied with a simple yes and headed to the cockpit. Around the cockpit, the group of flight attendants had gathered and were visibly alarmed. I found out that the captain and co-pilot were both feeling sick from bad food. Luckily, there was a doctor on the plane who checked on them. Unfortunately, they didn't get better and actually felt worse. This made it clear that it would be difficult for them to fly the plane, so the pilot made an important announcement. Acute gastroenteritis can strike out of the blue, so perhaps it was unavoidable. But for both of them to get gastroenteritis, that's either incredibly bad luck or a miracle. The odds seem pretty low. Many familiar faces were around the cockpit, and when they saw me, they said, "Well, how lucky that Alex was on board to both pilots having gastroenteritis, a doctor happening to be on that plane, and even a pilot being present. It feels like I've used up a lifetime's worth of love just on these astronomical odds." According to the doctor, the co-pilot's symptoms seemed milder than the captain's, but he was just barely able to hold a conversation. However, he seemed really rough with sweat on his brow. I managed to get in touch with the control tower and took my seat in the cockpit. I always feel a mix of anxiety and thrill. When I first started flying and had passengers with me, I felt immense pressure. The idea of being responsible for their lives made me really nervous and queasy, but at the same time, being a pilot meant I got to see an incredible view that passengers don't get from the cabin. The warm rays of the sun lit up the surroundings. Even the thick clouds below looked like a beautiful backdrop. That sense of exhilaration, only a pilot feels, always filled my heart. I often wonder if some kind of hormone is flooding my brain. Being here is pure joy, well, for me at least. I once mentioned this to a flight attendant and was immediately dismissed as weird. I feel sorry for Olivia. She never saw something like this and yet became tired of it. The plane landed safely in Hawaii, making sure everyone on board, including the crew, was safe. Right after, the captain and co-pilot rushed to the hospital. Just those two going is enough. chuckling and stroking his beard. What an inappropriate, odd thing for a doctor to say, but well, he's probably trying to show his appreciation in his own way. Even though the landing was safe from the company's perspective, it's still a big deal. As a result, after arriving in Hawaii, paperwork and reports took so long that I was only free by sunset. As initially planned, I headed straight to my friend's new shop at top speed. Of course, I drove safely. The store was already bustling with many customers. My friend and the owner, Charlie, saw me and immediately burst into a wide grin, exclaiming, "Glad you could make it," and giving me a hearty pat on the back. "I heard you had quite the day, controlling a plane with passengers while it is in the air." How did he find out about it? I didn't want to show off, so I didn't plan on mentioning it. But if he already knew, I suppose I should tell him. The strong pat from Charlie, who was muscular, made my back feel a tingling sensation as I rubbed the painful area. I sat down and remembered what happened throughout the day. That story is truly unbelievable. Can't believe it's been 5 years since you retired. Time flies. Charlie laughed. Indeed, the passing of 5 years does make me feel the cruel march of time. Are you a friend of the owner? A gentle voice inquired from behind me. Turning around, a distinguished-looking gentleman was smiling at me. Next to him was a rather, "Excuse me, Olivia," Charlie replied to the gentleman with a smile. "It seems he's a regular at this place. He was my body back in the service days. This guy was top-notch, you know. He was stationed at the Langley Air Force Base with the 4th Air Wing, 11th Flight Squadron." He explained thoroughly. I thought the gentleman wouldn't understand such detailed information, but his eyes lit up as he exclaimed, "Wait, you mean the Blue Angels?" Turns out he had once dreamed of becoming a pilot. However, due to an accident when he was a child, he almost lost vision in his right eye and had to reluctantly give up that dream. Same as me to remember names of aircraft, airline companies, and even military divisions. This guy must be a serious aviation enthusiast. It had been a while since I'd met someone so passionate about planes, so I couldn't help but chat animatedly with him, even though I was here for Charlie's celebration. I got distracted by an interesting talk. The man really loved the Blue Angels. He praised their air shows as amazing. Then Olivia interrupted us. She joined the conversation politely. The man apologized for getting caught up. It seemed like they were a couple, even though I didn't think she needed an apology. So I held my tongue in the course of our chat. He learned Olivia and I went to the same little school, which once again piqued the gentleman's interest. He bombarded me with various questions. "So, where are you now?" he inquired. I told him I'm a commercial pilot. He seemed puzzled by my answer. Well, it makes sense. Charlie and I were buddies from our military days, and if you love planes, you naturally want to fly fighter jets. The thing is, I had a car accident a while back and couldn't fly fighter jets anymore. But I still love the sky, so I switched to the commercial sector. I explained the whole situation 5 years ago on a rainy day. I was crossing the street at an intersection when a car ran the red light and hit me. The driver was distracted, looking elsewhere, though I received compensation and settled the matter. It doesn't mean I hold a grudge. However, because of that accident, I fractured my left leg and had to spend a significant amount of time in rehab. Because of this, I didn't meet the required flight hours and I lost my pilot's license. I also developed complications from the accident, meaning I could no longer fly the more demanding fighter jets. I was really sad back then. It was something I always wanted since I was a kid, and my dad, who is not here anymore, always cheered me on. But he taught me an important lesson. He used to say that we shouldn't think too much about the past. Instead, we should focus on doing our best right now. If I kept thinking about the past, I wouldn't be able to accomplish anything. When I found out I couldn't fly fighter jets anymore, the higher-ups suggested I move to a department primarily dealing with paperwork. But I couldn't give up on flying, so I left the military and transitioned to the private sector. Becoming a commercial pilot was more challenging than I expected, facing various obstacles. But I never gave up. The sky is where I belong. There's nowhere else for me. After finishing my story, Olivia's husband teary-eyed. He said, "I've never met someone as incredible as you. You never give up." Spirit is truly admirable. Would you mind if we kept in touch as he took out his cell phone? I couldn't possibly refuse after such a heartfelt request. Plus, being praised felt pretty good. To be honest, we kept talking about planes the whole time. Olivia seemed a bit down, and then her husband Ethan introduced himself. He's a rich guy who owns properties in fancy places like Hawaii. It turns out Olivia wasn't lying when she said she married into wealth. Honestly, I was quite skeptical Ethan, even after our meeting in Hawaii, kept in touch quite frequently and was a straight shooter kind of guy. He had a stickler for details kind of attitude, didn't tolerate any wrongdoing and seemed to be trusted by many. That's such a man show Olivia. As a life partner, I wondered if she had somehow drugged him. Then I received a message on my phone from Olivia. Please never tell my husband that we dated in the past. Don't jeopardize my happiness, it read. For my part, I had no desire to have any more involvement with Olivia, but considering Ethan, maybe it would be best to spill the beans. It's quite a dilemma. However, Olivia probably has some awareness that she wasn't entirely honest with me back then. I doubt her character changed just because of that plane incident, but she likely played her cards right to marry into money. If she went to those lengths, I guess I shouldn't be the one to ruin it. Although it's quite comical when I think about it. But to be honest, even if I don't tell Ethan about Olivia's true nature, sooner or later he'll see her for who she really is. I hope he stays happy for now. I said okay. Then she didn't message me anymore. It seems Olivia will keep her secrets from her husband. Basically, she can't live differently anymore. She is probably scared that her past and the people she bothered will come out. That's the responsibility and consequence of her past actions. The past never truly goes away. Some time had passed since I traveled to Hawaii. I happened to bump into Ethan at the airport, but the Ethan I saw there looked considerably thinner and appeared quite worn out when I spoke to him. He said that he and his wife, Olivia, had divorced sometime after the incident in Hawaii. A friend of Olivia's visited their home due to work commitments. Ethan was at home thinking not to disturb the two. He was working on his computer in a room next to the guest room. The visiting friend was from Olivia's middle school days, and they spoke so loudly that Ethan couldn't help but overhear. In between crude laughter, they mentioned people probably classmates from middle school using derogatory nicknames. I found out that I was part of the group they were talking about. Olivia and her friend were laughing about how men with money are the best. Ethan got really angry. He quickly left his room and shouted at them to leave immediately. He kicked Olivia and her friend out of the house and didn't allow them to come back that day. Afterwards, he discovered that Olivia had been using their savings without asking and wasting money. When confronted, Olivia retorted that he was stingy for a rich man. Initially, Ethan felt that if she changed, they could try again. But Olivia just said things like, "I never thought you'd be so tight-fisted, and I'm embarrassed not to have designer things." Well, hearing that, I wasn't very surprised at all. The more Olivia berated Ethan, the further his heart drifted away from her. Ethan ran out of patience and brought up divorce. Interestingly, her attitude changed drastically. She began saying things like she didn't want to split, and that it was just a play on words. Did she think he wouldn't consider divorce up to this point? It seemed her mind was really only focused on herself. When Ethan threatened to take her to court with a lawyer because of her persistence, she reluctantly signed the divorce papers. They kept arguing about how to divide their things, but Ethan said they finally figured everything out recently. Ethan sighed, "I thought she was a great person, but I never imagined she would behave like that." I totally understand. It's not just about looks. When we grow up, it becomes difficult to be with someone whose character clashes with ours regardless of their looks. After divorcing Ethan, Olivia went back to her hometown and is now living with her parents. Being a stay-at-home wife before, she's having difficulty finding work and she's living modestly, especially since she's being asked to pay back the money she squandered. What goes around comes around. I believe it's not just with Ethan. She always seemed to think she was better than everyone else, and now it seems like she's finally getting what she deserves. When Ethan shared his story at the airport, I said goodbye to him and left. I looked at the sky, but it was cloudy. However, I knew that beyond the clouds, the beautiful blue sky goes on forever. I used to think only pilots could see the amazing view from the cockpit. Olivia, however, might be touched by such sights and become more compassionate. Being a pilot has its challenges, but being inspired by the beautiful scenery makes it worth it. Worth it. Today, I'm determined to keep going, see more gorgeous landscapes, and ensure the safety.